welcome back to Bon Echo Tarot. I am here with December's Global Village Astro Report and Tarot reading for the collective. So welcome back. I have found a nice new cozy little corner to bring you my updates as we all figure our way through and around and surfing the changes. It hasn't been easy, I don't think, for anyone, any one of us, anyone, the entire world. We're all kind of united again in trying to make sense of the dynamics that are at play on many different levels. So for these intense times of change and learning to adapt, or also, to be able to be creative. I've found through the tension and the struggle that there's actually been a great potential for creativity right now. Maybe as a coping mechanism to, the things shifting so quickly. It's always a good idea to kind of slow down and take a look at things. I find that media cycles have accelerated all of our expectations around so many things that if we could just kind of get in the rhythm of the moon, we could at least have some remembrance of what the organic growth rate and so that we could be a little easier on ourselves in terms of our expectations around all sorts of things. So the predominant dynamic in astrology has been for quite some time, and it will continue to be for quite some time, change. So I have a lot of people who are like, hey, that astrology stuff is really cool and everything, but so when does everything get easier? And I mentioned this in the last month's report that I managed to get out, that it's not really supposed to get easier. We're going to have times where we're going to feel like we're expanding, and other times where we're going to feel like we're contracting. We're going to feel like we're going backwards, and we're also going to get a sense of being propelled forwards, whether it's in a direction that we want to go in or not. And sometimes on the surface of it, it's kind of like, well, I don't want to go here, but then you end up having to go there, and it ends up being exactly what was supposed to happen. So, like I said, the predominant theme is change. We're at a major shift that many religions, philosophies, practices, rituals are based around in terms of the time when humanity evolves into its next level. And so in order for us to actually ascend into that place, we have to let go of what we have seen as being an absolute up until this time. That, these are times when we can lean into Buddhist ideas of attachment being the thing that causes our suffering. And that sometimes the act of letting something go is exactly what brings it right back to us, because we're not attached to it in an unhealthy way. I've been noticing that, unconscious codependent behaviors in a lot of the people that I know or people that I read for, they're kind of coming to the surface, and instead of people judging themselves for it, they're like, oh, interesting. I didn't know that I had that. And that's a really important thing for people to really grab onto, is that the collective really is coming together. Whether or not we feel separate from each other right now, there are many signs in the collective that show that we're still very much united, and that we're not as alone as we feel we are. That we're very much working together, regardless of whether we can see it. And this is where visual bias, if we're leaning into one sense more than the others, we can't necessarily trust all the information to come in and be absorbed by all the other ways that we may process information. So, I don't want to get too crazy deep in that at this time. But we are approaching the age of Aquarius. And so, just that alone, as we come into the solstice of December, there are many indications to show us that this may actually be the threshold between the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius. So, while we've had to maintain a certain level of self-discipline over this last year, the energies from 2020 could not be more different than what the energies will be in 2021. What that means exactly, I don't have the full picture together yet in terms of my research, but I can tell you that it's going to be a lot more about communication, a lot more about sharing your thoughts, a lot more of revolutionary thinking for a new paradigm, because it's what's necessary. And so, in order to make that transition, we have to have a healthy outlook on the old, in that it served us for the time that it was with us. But it's not sustainable. And so that requires change. So, as we emerge into that change, we cannot assume that any of us knows what that change looks like until we have truly let go of the infrastructure that's made us feel safe up until now. So, we've got eclipse season upon us for this winter. So we know that energies are going to be really intense. And while we've seen that play out on the global theater, for the most part, during the month of November, December is going to force us more into a place that is centered around our most intimate relationships in the home and how we feel about home. Because all of this culminates to a peak emotional experience at the end of December, just before we emerge into the light, airy energies of Aquarius. So, we have on the 30th of November, because this is where the December energies and the stage is set. November 30th, we have a full moon lunar eclipse in Gemini. So we've got the Gemini-Sagittarius lunar node pairs that are helping us to illuminate the things that need to go. And then when the new moon comes in Sagittarius, we're coming in with more fire, more inspiration, more creativity in order to start building a foundation for what the Aquarius age is going to provide for humanity to continue to evolve. The big moment in December is the solstice. Not only because it is the solstice energies, which are always powerful and always bring us into a deeper place with the divine, more personal. But this is the big Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. And so in Aquarius, this is the launch of Saturn and Jupiter's stay in Aquarius. So while we've had sort of a planet party, otherwise known as stellium in astrology, in Capricorn for the last year and a half-ish, maybe a little bit more, now those earthy, disciplined energies switch into Aquarius, airy and rebellious and innovative. So we're going to feel the gate of the age of Aquarius, more so this solstice than we've ever felt it before. And this is where we start to acclimatize to how to manifest what we need, what is best for us, what's truly best for us in a completely new environment. And how do we stay receptive and open and slow things down? So, as I said, after we cross that threshold, December 30th comes in with a solar eclipse in Cancer. So that'll be the full moon. And because it's an eclipse, and in eclipse seasons, we have to realize too that there are things that are marinating under the surface of our experience. And we're not privy to that information yet. So final decisions about anything are not, this is not a good time for that, because you haven't been provided with all the information in order to even know what your next step is going to be. So, to get into the specifics on what these dates are going to be like for the collective, for the full moon eclipse in Gemini on November 30th, 2020, cosmic events are possible. Magic is definitely in the air. Neptune is square the moon in this situation, which, you know, can produce all sorts of different effects. It can sometimes make a situation more magical, but at other times it can drop the veil on something so that you can go, oh, okay, and it will shift your perspective sometimes to the degree where you're now pushed in an entirely new direction as to what decisions you're going to make about that particular thing. So you could possibly feel some shakeups in your world, some absolute endings. Again, this is about closing out old cycles, dropping them entirely before you cross the threshold into the age of Aquarius. Your new chapters. These new chapters are new books. So it's time to do the extra for your last book. You know, if you think of your life as a series of books as opposed to a series of chapters, and this is something that many people can learn from those of us who have Scorpio placements, is that it really is about reinvention right now for all of us. Who are we bringing into the Aquarian age? So, the mutable signs are going to be challenged the most by this, because this is the lunar nodes. So these are deep soul karmic lessons for, so that's Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, Pisces. So each one of those signs is going to, you know, is going to be challenged with things like moodiness, self-deception, gossip, irritants, you know, and this is the thing, you know, when, you know, if there's something deeply karmic within you that needs to move in a new direction, you have to go through that sort of sand in the oyster, irritation period to push you out and into the new paradigm that you are inevitably going to be stepping into. So how do you want to step into it? Do you want to go kicking and screaming? You know, this is what all of us in the collective will be looking at as we enter December. So when we get halfway through and we hit the new moon in Sagittarius, well, Sagittarius, you know, is much less thinky. You know, they're fire, and they're like little sprites. You know, they're fun-loving. They define fun for all of us, pretty much, in the zodiac. So, you know, this is where the magic continues, and it's the energies of fate, destiny, and karma that are coming in to support you once you've let go of the things that aren't working for you anymore. You know, you get rewarded. That, you know, you have to make space for the new, which means you have to lovingly take whatever is occupying that space now. Thank it for what it's brought to you, and then gently release it with love to stay in the past so that there's space for you to create something new. So this is going to be a partial solar eclipse. So it's not going to, be super punchy. It's definitely going to be there, and it's definitely going to be powerful. But again, because we're talking about eclipses and partial, this is a time when you're still gathering information ahead of when you walk through the gate, so that you know what you're leaving behind at the door. So so when we get to the threshold of Aquarius, I have way too many notes. Here's where we're dealing with the old paradigm versus the new paradigm. So expansion versus boundaries, abundance versus lack. Lots of people are working the abundance piece, and I know that I am definitely one of them. And I have been so grateful for the insights that I have been absorbing for some time now, but that are only really, gaining clarity in terms of my perspective over the last few weeks. And so I realize that that many of my limiting beliefs have been running on this unconscious program, and that in reflection, I look back at different times in my life, I realized I wasn't ready to actually let go of that particular line of thought. But now I am. And, the energies in general are changing. So manifestation, of what we want and what we don't want is happening faster than we've ever experienced it before. So these are just a few of the hints that we can take with us as we walk into December with the best of intentions, in keeping an open mind and trying to avoid becoming distracted by the environment's demand for your polarization. Maybe you don't have all the information yet. Maybe there's no way for you to make a decision. Maybe this is not the time for that. And sometimes when we take a look at the rhythm of our expectations, we're actually pretty unforgiving as to what we expect from ourselves and others. So one of the best ways that, people say that the first step of solving a problem is knowing that you have it. But if you have the problem, maybe you have to look at the problem a little bit deeper in terms of where the source of it came from and whether it's still relevant to your experience today. So with the tarot, let's get a little bit more detail on the collective karmic issues that we're all working together on. Because in many of my readings, not only from me, but even, for a few of my clients, have been pointing towards ancestral patterns that are being healed right now. And that takes a lot of soul energy. So I think this is another reason why self-care has also become a predominant theme in our collective right now. So let's get the tarot. And last card for the collective. So let's see what the energies are. King of Wands. So the King of Wands, well, I mean, you know, he's the boss guy. He's the one that's got all the ideas. He's also, you know, very attractive and charismatic. And, you know, like a little bit more involved than, you know, with his community than, say, the Emperor. You know, and he's not afraid of hard work, but he's kind of worked his way a little bit higher than that, to the point where, you know, people look to him as a leader. So, very interesting. Let's see what's at the center. The Lovers, Gemini. So the Gemini Sagittarius pair, and, you know, we could look at the King of Wands as also being a representative of Sagittarius. It's coming in fast, you know, and it's about boundaries. Look at that. It's just, I can hardly keep up with the cards here. So, yeah, you know, if anyone has been worried about things moving too slowly, I think it's going to speed up a little bit. I mean, we have come out of the really heavy retrogrades as well that we had earlier this year in the summer. I mean, for a while there, I don't have all my charts set up just yet, but, I mean, almost every planet was in retrograde. So, you know, you're spinning your wheels. You know, it's loosening up a bit now. Everybody's getting just a little bit of traction. But, you know, it's one thing to have traction if you don't know what direction you're going to go in. So, the Fool. So we've got the Lovers, which is crossed by, okay, the Lovers, which is crossed by the Ace of Cups. Foundation is the Fool. In the recent past, we have the Hermit. And crowning the reading is the Four of Cups. So the Four of Cups, wow, we've got like 3 major arcana here already. Four of Cups is about sometimes not seeing the forest for the trees. Not seeing a divine opportunity that's being presented to you. Focusing on what you're letting go of. Some of us don't want to go into the Aquarian age because we don't know what it looks like yet. But this is kind of the thing. We're kind of learning how to feel our way through these things. As opposed to, yeah. So there's Sag. So we've got Gemini and Sag. So that's kind of cool. You know, so we're going from lunar to solar. And success, it's 6 of Wands. So the collective is doing really well. But on the outside, there's a lot of this. Interesting. We'll come back to that in a minute. All right, so hopes and fears, home and security. Ain't that the truth? Well, isn't that lovely? At the end of the day, we find justice. So, well, this is delightful, I must say. And kind of shows, you know, I also anticipate next year, it's just an intuitive hunch that Mercury has a lot to do with what's going to be happening in the whole Age of Aquarius 2021 first year kind of thing. The mental deconstruction and reconstruction that's going to be taking place, I think, is going to be actually very exciting. If we can really kind of get into it with a sense of excitement and anticipation. especially if we can always just trust that the universe will always bring us what we need. And that justice is also karma, you know? Generally, I think that, you know, we're all, if we start out as the hermit, if that's kind of, you know, because we've been isolated, because of the quarantine and the lockdown, that it really has kind of forced a different kind of self-reflection than perhaps many of us have been used to. So I think too that, you know, as I look down the road and see the energies that are coming in for us this month, that relationships are going to be a focus for every sign. You know, that it isn't just one that's going to be primarily looking at, you know, perhaps ending relationships that that are unworkable or that have become so obviously unhealthy that that it's time to release these things with love, you know, so that we can allow for a new beginning. Pardon me. So that we can allow for a new beginning that starts with the relationship that we have with ourselves. You know, one cup can also be indicative of the love you have for yourself as opposed to a new beginning with a lover. And that this is the threshold, you know. We are embarking collectively on a journey that is nothing like anything any of us have experienced in the past. And it's leveled the playing field, too. And so, you know, we've come out of this time of contemplation and meditation, and we're in the process of integrating how these energies are reshaping our views. And, you know, as I said, as a collective, we're actually very successful in what we've achieved so far. And this can represent, you know, that this is the reality, whether or not we can see it. And if we can't see it, that this is what the anxiety is. But if there are forces that don't want us to succeed on the outside of our consciousness, maybe they're the ones who are anxious. So what is this about? It's about sovereignty. It's about personal ability to conduct your life and the kind of life you have with your family and the kind of security you have within the greater whole. And justice prevails. So I'm going to clarify some of these cards just a little bit and see if we can let's get a little bit more insight on the Six of Wands for the collective, please. Yes. We've got the Seven of Wands to clarify the Six of Wands. So it's about boundaries and the healthy expression of them that honors the individual and the collective, respectively. So let's clarify the Nine of Swords and see if we can get some insight into that. And we have the Magician. So that the collective on the surface of things may be a little bit nervous about what is manifesting. That the collective is anxious about stepping into their powers of manifestation. Or something outside the collective, out of anxiety, is trying to manipulate the situation. We can read that many, many, many different ways. So let's clarify justice. And we've got the Queen of Swords. So a lot of Libran energies going on here. Interesting. We've got the Hierophant. The Queen of Swords and the Hierophant are clarifying the Justice card. Let's get one more for a trifecta. Okay, so yeah, sovereignty of the individual. And interestingly enough, the way that I read the Hierophant is, from a spiritual perspective, as much as the Hierophant can be, about marriage, commitment, it can also be about structured religions and faiths. And isn't it interesting that on the Justice card, we've got the Queen of Swords, the Hierophant, and the Nine of Pentacles. So it has me wondering if the justice that will become evident at some point in the not too distant future is that justice will come through a woman of authority, organized religion that supports the sovereignty of the individual. Maybe I've been watching too much of The Crown. I don't know. But I get that there's an element here that's showing a higher voice for the sovereignty of the individual. And that's where the justice comes in. Interesting. Okay, so what I also want to do in this reading is I'm going to pull 3 cards from my Da Vinci card deck. I don't have the book for this one anymore. So there's some cards in this deck that I have no idea what they mean. If you know what they mean and you want to help me out, throw a comment down below. But otherwise, I'm just going to trust that the cards that I do know how to read will reveal themselves. So I'm using the Da Vinci deck to give us some insight specifically on how we're going to deal with each one of our careers or vocations that theoretically, are the very things that sustain us. So we have the 6 of Fire, which is the same thing. It's the 6 of Wands. Well, this is great. Oh my God, I'm very excited. So we've got victory. And yeah, the Way Shower, which is, if I'm not mistaken, is this death? At any rate, I'm just going to read it as it is right here. So we've got the Way Shower, which is, that we're being shown a new view. Two of Air, respect. So this would normally be the 2 of Swords in the Rider-Waite, but I like this interpretation because it's like I see this as an emerging team or sense of teamwork that is based in mutual respect, that it's going to become evident that respect for the individual, and maybe that's what the Age of Aquarius is about. And I can't help but smile because this is amazing news. Problem is that we can't see through our own illusions just yet to see what the true reality is. So we've got the 7 of Water as sort of the hidden energies. Um, you know, it's like the illusion may be that we have lost or are in danger of losing our ability to be self-sustaining, when in fact the opposite may be the case. And so as we drop our perspective of things, illusions, Neptune is square at least the moon. I'll try and get more information on that. But Neptune, you know, whether it's confusing you or whether it's showing you where you've fed into an illusion on something. No judgment, ever. This is really cool. I have to say that you know, we're all learning a new way of doing things. So, as I said, I'm using this reading as sort of an example to show you of what a reading looks like before and then after into what I offer on my Patreon site for an extended read. So this is where I would end with you folks here when I go to do Aries through Pisces. And but I'm going to continue on in this reading so that you can see where it goes and if it's something that you want to follow up on. So I'm going to clear these cards for now. But this is great to know. I know that, you know, with all of the changes, I've realized that I was going to have to find new ways in order to support myself. And I've done many things in the course of my life, and now there's this project, but I have a few more. But, you know, nothing that I can really act on. So rather than get bogged down in how much my movement has been restricted, and how sad that makes me, I have been focusing on the excitement of learning new ways to do stuff. So, so I've gone through the general energies for the collective in terms of what we're working in December, and then we went through the Da Vinci cards to look at what your vocation or your career is likely to look like. So in this particular read, I'm going to be doing essentially what I like to call a relationship diagnostic in sort of mini form. So you get an idea as to what a relationship diagnostic reading might look within a private read. I'm not going to take that, not just yet. So what are the predominant themes that the collective is working through in terms of love relationships and commitments? So I'm going to look at the divine masculine and the divine feminine side. Okay, so divine masculine is in pain. And the energy between the divine masculine and divine feminine is sensuality. The divine feminine is dealing with issues around attachment. So, and look at that. What's the problem? It's fantasy. It's illusion. So, the way forward the way through the pain is in letting go. But, you know, in terms of what's between the two, in terms of your more sensual connections, you know, this is kind of defining the kind of relationship. So where there's that sexual intimacy with someone else, it's fine to appreciate it. And honor it. But if it's something that causes pain, and if it's something that you're clinging to because you don't want to feel alone, you have to ask yourself, with this energy, how much of the relationship is real? And, you know, underneath the fantasy card, we've got the erotic. So, you know, we live in hypersexual times. And as beautiful as sex can be between two people, if it's clouded with illusion, if it's not based in truth, then the only thing that it's going to lead to is fear. And again, there's no judgment around that. But conscious relationship requires that we're conscious. And, you know, as wonderful as sex and sensuality is shared between two people, damn quarantine. Anyways, I think that through this experience of walking through the meadows of quarantine and an uncertain landscape in the world, while sex is great and all, sometimes just, you know, knowing that you have a plan with someone who's sitting next to you, who can, you know, navigate the more confusing areas and take you out of the desire to escape into a fantasy world, to ground it, to honor the lessons that came in the pain and in the attachment. So what's after fear? Oh yeah, there's a lot of ghosts of lovers past and pain from previous lovers that have created bad attitudes and loneliness for many of us. You know? But the grace of honoring companionship with someone who can be present. You know, like I said, sex is great and all, but, you know, a conversation, a meeting of the minds, and someone who it feels safe to be in the same room with, you know, is probably going to be better off in the long run. I think we just need essentially to check our attitudes about what we may have accumulated in terms of our belief systems around relationships and what it is we think that we can expect from them. So, as we get closer to the end of December and beginning of January, grace through the changes and releasing things with love to make space for new connections, to make space for new experiences from a more self-empowered place is definitely a better scenario than what you're leaving. Because, you know, are you a part of the paradigm that believes more in suffering? Or are miracles a part the world that you live in. It's up to you. Okay, so at this point I'm going to do a spread of the Lenormand, which I like because it can kind of give a big picture, zoom out look at the present and where the energies are likely to take you in the future. Alright, so let's pick 9 cards from the Lenormand and get their view on this threshold that we are all approaching together. And that, there we go. Okay. So, surrounding energies. Ooh, mice. So, with the mice, it's like, you know, little by little. I mean, I know for me, like, it's a lot of these situations have been eaten away at me little by little. It's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Little by little, little by little, little by little. As I work out my own issues around abundance and trust. Because that's what it's all about, right? Alright, so there it is. We've got the tree. The tree is all about legacy. It's about, you know, and some of the things that have come up have been, you know, healing ancestral generational issues and dysfunction. Bird's eye view with the tower. The tower is very different in the Lenormand deck than it is in the tarot. The tower really is about zooming out. And the more that we can zoom out and realize that we're part of a collective, in the best sense of the word, that truly is evolving, and we're from the stars. You know? It's a cosmic time. The synchronization of the planets and how they affect us, their subtle energies, and how it marks our way through time is very profound. Anchor. So with the anchor, it's about commitment and maturity. It's in the garden. As a collective, this is really wonderful. I'm so delighted to do this reading. You know, that this truly is part of our maturation process into this new age. As we make the commitment deeper to ourselves, you know, like here's the cross, so we can look at this as Christ consciousness. You know, it's like, you know, the return of those energies, or the evolution of our energies into more Christ-like expression. The moon is clearly the trigger point for all of us throughout the month of December, and then carrying us into January. I'm so excited to show you people the charts that I am making for 2021. I tell you, it's like, it's going to be completely different, and ending off with the sun. So the moon and the sun, this is the balancing of the divine feminine and the divine masculine energies in every individual. So this is really about this. We're evolving, and it's not going to be through polarization. It's going to be by releasing old patterns entirely. The time to choose sides is over. There is no side. It's about you, and not because you're selfish, but because it's your responsibility to take care of yourself first. That's all that the collective requires. And the more that we get the handle on that, the faster we will evolve, and the less confusing our circumstances are going to be. So, thank you for joining me. Stay tuned. And as I said, I'm going to have reads for all the signs, Aries through Pisces. This one has been for the global village. It is an honor to be a part, and it is an honor to read for you. If you are interested in a private reading, you can find me at Barnacle Tarot on Facebook. Send me a message there, and I'd be happy to set one up for you. I'm also going to do like a little video soon as to what you can expect and what your options are in terms of specifically ordering a private reading. Because there's lots of options, and there are lots of ways to looking at how that kind of thing can help you in your journey, in clarifying a sticky circumstance that you may have found yourself in. Very few people come to me when everything is just fine. You know, sometimes it's the things that are really difficult for us to sort out on our own that we just need a different perspective, that's all. And, you know, it's not that the cards are going to tell you what you're going to do. The cards are going to shake up your thinking about it and, you know, encourage you to ask questions as to why you feel this way about this particular thing and how that fits into your story. So as always, it is an honor and a pleasure. Have a great day, and we'll see you again soon.